you and I are no strangers to MCU rankings. We do them on our YouTube channels respectively. I haven't done one in probably over a year or so, but you do them fairly consistently, and you utilize tier list. When I make them on my YouTube videos, I'm picture in picture. I'm showing my letterboxd. We're not going to have any of that, so we're going to just be talking through our list extensively. But the big picture just ranks things all the time without needing a visual component. So it's not like I have faith in our audience that they'll be able to follow along. But because we don't have these visual elements, and just in general, I want to know what you think of like certain like rankings and lists that you read from other publications and things. But I know I've always found it important to, and this is what makes podcasting great, I've always found it super important to talk through how you arrive at these placements, because there's nothing more frustrating than an outlet like Collider or any publication just posting a list one day, top 100 greatest TV shows of all time, but people get so upset about those because they can't believe that they left something out, or they're obviously upset that they ranked something over another. Like, all that kind of stuff is fun or not fun, but I see that kind of stuff and I'm just like, I just wish I could have like had some insight as to how this was done. I wish I know the people that were involved and the comprising of all these opinions, how they arrived at certain conclusions. Was there an argument between two people? This is where I put Jaws. This is where I put Munich. Like, I that's the kind of stuff I'm always wanting. So I don't find just published lists all that fascinating. Like, I'll breeze through them or whatever and then think nothing of it. But I enjoy what we're about to put into practice here more than anything. So our audience is going to get to hear us. We probably agree on a lot, but there's going to be times when we don't agree, but that's going to be why this is fun. So I don't know. Do you have anything to say on that? How you take in lists, what goes into your process in making a list, how you prioritize movies? Like, what should we know about your way of thinking going into this?
Well, it's, I've thankfully, first off, moved my way out of movie TikTok. Not that I have a lot of creators on there that I'm friends with and whatnot, but a lot of the really popular lists I see on movie TikTok is just some guy saying, here's my top 5 blank. And then they just list them. And that's the end of the video. And I'm like, I learned nothing about you. But those are the ones that always get the likes. And I'm just like, are people's brains that just like wired to, you know what I mean? Just like short, boom, next video, cat video, meme. It's just like, is that our brains now? I guess I do that with sports stuff, but I don't like that. I've never liked that, because I'm like, how did that person come up with that? Why is his list the way it is? And why are these movies not on here? Or why are they at the bottom? And so that's what I like. And I look at some of these other podcasts, a couple that you mentioned, but I remember, what was it, the Top 10 show with John Roca, and was it Matt Nost? A show like that where they're able to just kind of go through everything, have their agreements, their disagreements, put everything on the table, and like you said, arrive at these at that point, specific conclusions to where we can go, you know what, we disagree, but I get it, and I see where your head's at. Those are my favorite kinds of lists. And when making my list, it's a little different, because I often like to do tier rankings and unconventional lists, and sometimes with those tiers, I will put everything in order at the end, but during the video is when I try to decide kind of where my head's at with them, aka what tier I'm putting them on. And you'll often see me talk about something at the beginning of a video, and after I talk about all these other ones, when I'm actually ranking them, sometimes I'll put them on a different tier. Because until I've went through all these Marvel movies, you really get that to the point to where you're reflecting on your experiences with some of these other things, but how that's changed. I look at Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and how maybe I didn't hate that on the level at the time like a lot of other people did, but now reflecting on it and how insignificant that the movie is in this universe, maybe that's a film that's gotten a lot lower, a lot worse. And so those are the types of things that I look at as I'm ranking, is how have these changed while I've reflected? What has a rewatch done for this movie? And why have I not had the will to go back and rewatch this film in 5+ years? Maybe I need to do that. And so that's kind of the mentality with the MCU, and my thoughts are constantly changing, even though my favorites and least favorites are pretty set in stone.
Yeah, it's going to be easy for us to have debate, have discussion, because there's two of us on a podcast. But when I'm solo and I'm just kind of going through my Letterboxd rankings,
It's tough.
the way I've always organized my podcast is I try to come up with like absolutes. So it gives me a reason to sort of go through every single movie, touch on it lightly or heavily, whatever it is, depends on how passionate I am about the movie. So the way that I've always sort of structured it, and I just think it's kind of fun for the listeners to comprise a point system. I don't think I'm going to necessarily do that, but I usually go like by franchise, guys. And if you even want to see how I wrote it out, I just list the Iron Man movies here, the Thor movies. I know it's backwards and out of focus, but anyway. And I've kind of like comprised the point system. So if we have Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, and we rank them, because there's 3 movies, I'd reorder them and rank them. And then because there's 3 movies, I give one movie 2 points, the second movie 1 point, and then the bottom movie 0. Like, so if you're the worst Iron Man movie, you don't get a point. So I kind of do that through all the franchises, so I can see the top tier of every franchise together. Here's all my 3-pointers.
Nice.
Here's all my 2-pointers. And then I would shift them and then look at, well, what phase do I like the best between the phases? And if you're a phase 3 movie, which that would be my answer, you get, because there's 5 phases now, then you get 4 points for being in phase 3. You get 3. It's just like a fun thing. Do you get what I'm saying? And so
Yes,
that's how, and so people can literally see me build it that way. Now, obviously there's exceptions, because if you're ranking Black Widow with Incredible Hulk, with Shang-Chi, because those are the ones without sequels and stuff, like for no reason, Incredible Hulk's going to have a 4. And be with Captain America Civil War or something. It's like, okay, well, obviously it's going to go all the way. Like, there's obviously times when that happens. But again, that's part of the fun. It's like, no, let's move that back. But it's just, I just feel like it's a fun way to tell the story. So we're going to kind of do that here. This is a movie mode list. So this is not Austin's personal list. This is not my personal list. We will figure this out together. There might be choices that break our hearts individually, but we make it for the good of movie mode. We have decided to draw hard lines, and we are only including films. We are not touching Disney Plus series or special presentations. We are talking about the 34 movies from Iron Man to Deadpool and Wolverine. Can we say that Sony Spider-Man movies and Fox X-Men movies are part of the MCU?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a different conversation. The movies have to have a Marvel Studios banner, starting with Iron Man in 2008. Of course, the 3 Spider-Man movies are included, because that is an MCU character and still MCU movies creatively, even though they're made by Sony. Yeah, I guess one other thing I guess the question I have, since you've done so many of these lists, is there something about the MCU that you've uncovered, whether it be like, you already know going into our conversation here what your favorite phase is? Do you know, like, is there something about certain MCU projects that is automatically more favorable? I know I tend to gravitate towards the films, and I find them more favorable the more prominent MCU heroes there are. So, like, if I'm talking Civil War versus Winter Soldier, I'm biased to actually pick Civil War because there's more characters. I think the MCU functions better the more they integrate other characters. That's something I've come across with my rankings. Do you have anything like that? Any sort of observations and, things that are very much, here's how Austin Burke ranks these films?
I think some of the films that I believe are maybe a little higher quality than others may be lower down on my list. A lot of it for me, being such a big MCU fan for so many years and kind of growing up with this franchise, a lot of it comes down to which movies do I want to rewatch more than others, which may not always be quality. Like, I think one of the highest quality films in the MCU is one that's ranked fairly highly on my list. It's the first Iron Man, the original, the OG, but maybe I don't prefer watching that as much as I do the big ensemble, crazy, wild, a little more choppy movies, maybe ones that aren't as, they don't flow as well, but because I gravitate towards those and I watch them so frequently, they're obviously going to be higher up on my list. So it's the watchability factor, it's also the nostalgia factor, and it's the preliminary factor of I went into this franchise with a set list of heroes that I gravitated towards. So obviously when I see them on the big screen, if they're handled well, then I'm going to love them. And that being said, the MCU also managed to flip me on one major character that eventually became my favorite, and I never thought that would happen. And so it's fun to go back, reminisce, look through all those things, and I've really, over the years, just changed the way that I approach these lists big time.
Yeah, you've often mentioned your love for Cersei and Eternals, and I agree 100%. So, anyway.
You know me so well, Ryan.
Austin, are you ready to rank the MCU together on a podcast?
I was born ready, Ryan Snelling. I can't wait to debate you today on why The Marvels is the greatest MCU movie of all time. Let's do this.
For the love of God. Well, talk about absolutes. I will say The Marvels... Actually, you know what? Never mind. I'm not even going to touch that yet.
Okay. That's fair.
All right, let's do it. Actually, some of this might be super breezy. So, like I said, guys, we'll go franchise by franchise. So let's just start by ranking the Iron Man films. I'll toss out my ranking, and we'll see if you agree. And if you agree, we'll just move right along, all right?
Okay.
My ranking of Iron Man films, from best to worst: Iron Man, Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2.
That's it.
Breezy. Perfect. Easy. So on Letterboxd right now, I'm going to move that around. So the Iron Man films are in order from best to worst. All right. Next, we got a quadrilogy here with the Thor films. I'm going to throw out my personal ranking of Thor's, and you tell me if we agree or disagree.
Okay.
We're going Thor Ragnarok.
All right.
Thor The Dark World, Thor Love and Thunder.
Okay. We're close. We got close on that one.
Is it Dark World and Love and Thunder that we're hung up on?
Yes, and it's not a massive discrepancy for me, but I still find Thor... Actually, I guess it kind of is. I still find Thor The Dark World to be just one of the most dull comic book movies I've ever seen. And while Love and Thunder is pretty bad in parts, at least there are moments to laugh at, which is why I have it a little higher.
All right. Here's my argument. Thor The Dark World, I agree 100%. We feel the same way about Dark World, right?
Yep.
But since its release, the MCU has incorporated what went on in that film more so and made it so relevant that it was a plot point in Endgame to where the Dark World was revisited. Love and Thunder has, in my opinion, I don't remember... I remember coming out of Thor The Dark World just being like, yeah, I didn't care about this movie, but I didn't vehemently get angry about it. And I didn't actively go into it like particularly excited about the story and the premise. I didn't know what Dark World was supposed to be about. But with Love and Thunder, I was excited for Taika Waititi to return, to continue what he did with Ragnarok. I was excited for the idea of Natalie Portman returning and doing Lady Thor. And so I went in with more excitement, and it let me down even more, to where it's like I'm just more involved in Dark World than I ended up being involved with Love and Thunder. So even though they're both bad entries, I think at least we get to explore the Thor and Loki dynamic, and that means more to the fandom anyway than I think Thor and Jane. So that's my argument. What do you think about that?
That's fair. I actually didn't initially hate Love and Thunder. I walked out saying, "Oh, that's pretty funny." I hated the goats, but it had some nice moments. It was more upon reflection that my viewpoint started to get kind of like, oh, okay, that was not even remotely close to what Ragnarok was. Didn't even touch Ragnarok. I thought Endgame would make Dark World better. I couldn't stay awake watching it again after Endgame. I'm like, man, it I guess in theory it did. I think you're right in that way. It made it more relevant, but the experience of the movie is just still so dull to me, to where I can watch Love and Thunder and see the moments and see the shades of what Waititi brought to Ragnarok. Some of these colorful comic booky scenes, and I think the Thor and Jane stuff, even watching that for a third time, which I didn't like the movie, but I'm like, that's still good. I still like the romance quite a bit. But then you get to the end and it kind of falls apart and becomes just a big jumbled mess. And so I guess it all just depends on where we want to go. Do we want to go extremely dull? I guess slightly relevant. I wouldn't hate putting that above Love and Thunder because it's so relevant, but it's such a dull story. I think both of these are going to be near the bottom of the overall list, but I don't mind. I don't mind putting Love and Thunder because I think also that's the consensus. Such an atrocity. I think more people will be on board with that being lower.
Well, here's a couple more things, right? So both movies caused the following film. It caused a course correction in the franchise. So people didn't respond to Dark World, and that's where, the comedic stylings of Taika Waititi and Ragnarok was born from the rejection of Dark World.
Yes.
Everything that we've come to know about what they're doing with Thor 5, they're doing a course correction, and Chris Hemsworth has spoken out like, we didn't take it seriously enough. We're going to have a more comedic tone. So they keep course correcting because of these two movies that we're talking about. So there's that to examine, and which one matters most, means most. Also, the villains. So Christopher Eccleston plays the dark elf guy, but Christian Bale plays Gore the God Butcher. What's a greater crime? Having a high-profile actor get us excited about a villain who's ultimately ineffective, versus a nothing character. Like, what's the greater sin?
I feel you on that. I could see the, I don't want to say massacre of Bale as that character. It's definitely a bigger crime, but I do think the villain in Dark World, don't ask me his name, I do think he's the worst villain in the MCU by far. I would say he's a significantly worse villain than Bale. Now, expectation-wise, we expected Bale to be a lot better than he was. And I think that's the distinction, is he crushed our expectations in a bad way. And then Malekith? That just came to me.
Yeah.
Malekith was... But the guy didn't want to be there. And he even said after the movie was over, he's like, I didn't want to be there. He hated everything about that experience. And you could tell in that performance too. So that also kind of made it a bit of a heartbreak.
Should we flip a coin?
It kind of feels that. No, I'm actually okay. I'm okay with. I think fans will be more satisfied because there's recency bias and then there's recency hatred. And this is the most recent movie that people hate, and so it's almost like they forgot how much they hate The Dark World. But me going back and rewatching The Dark World made me realize how much I also hate The Dark World as much as I always have. And so, yeah, I think recency hatred is why we should put Love and Thunder lower.
Okay. So if you're looking at and again, to reiterate, it's Ragnarok, Thor, Dark World, Love and Thunder. So if you were looking at my letterbox right now, guys, I have all 34 movies here. The top row are the 7 films that we've talked about. So let's go on and rank these 7 films, shall we?
Sure.
Is Ragnarok better than Iron Man 3?
Oh, yeah.
Agreed. Is Thor better than Iron Man 3?
That's debatable. I have them very close.
I think it is. I think I do. I think Thor has gotten better over time. And that might be because it's got 2 sequels that, like, Thor just looks great in comparison to Dark World and Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
But I think there's still some great stuff in that first Thor movie. First of all, I think Thor and Jane work in that movie. So many of the characters that we've come to know. I mean, we still had Darcy and WandaVision, and like, so much has come from that film. I think the first film doesn't get enough credit for being funny. That's where all the Loki stuff comes from. It's got great Loki, but that Thor and Loki's great in the first Thor. Kenneth Branagh doing like a high profile director doing something interesting with that material, Shakespearean. Like one of the Thor movies needed to be that. But yeah, that joke where he just slams down the coffee mug and says, "I'll have another." He walks into the pet store and says, "I need a horse." Like those at a certain point, those were the funniest moments in the MCU for me. Like I always love those moments. So, Iron Man 3, I think the way that it's aged, I just don't think it's as polarizing anymore. And I think it's just because we've added more bad movies to the MCU. It's like we're not talking about how disappointed we were with Iron Man 3 anymore.
Yeah.
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 Fair enough.
I actually it's funny because I actually have Thor on my overall list. I have it 1 spot above Iron Man 3. So I can definitely get it's close. Because honestly, I've kind of come around on the idea of Iron Man 3, not as much the movie, but the idea of stripping Tony Stark from his suits, even though there's a lot of suits at the end, and having him to rely on his smarts. I think that's a fantastic idea. I just remember at the time being disappointed with the twist and all that. But you know what, Ryan? People talking, you talked earlier about kind of making things better later on. This Shang-Chi made Iron Man 3 a little better because we finally got the Mandarin, and so that kind of elevates it as well. But I'm with you on the fact that Thor, it's probably the best Asgard we've ever seen. It's the most operatic version of Thor, which is kind of what he needed to be to start out the MCU. And I remember getting very emotional at the end when I watched that movie in the theater when Loki falls into the nothingness. And so, yeah, I like Thor. I think it should be reasonably high.
Do you remember when you walked out of the theater? We all just kind of thought, that dude is perfect for this role.
Yeah, both of them.
Like, we didn't know anything about Chris Hemsworth. He was an absolute nobody. We had Chris Evans. You know, I was already a fan of Chris Evans before going into the first Avenger, but I knew nothing about Hemsworth. So he was either going to be Thor or not at all. So walking out of that movie and like, that's my Thor for the rest of my life, like that's something special. So we're all right. We're on the right track. So here's how ridiculous our ranking is right now: Iron Man, Thor Ragnarok, Thor, Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2, Thor the Dark World, Thor Love and Thunder. Last question. Yeah. Okay. Before we move on.
Okay.
Is Ragnarok better than Iron Man?
I have it higher.
Do you?
I do. I go off of, I think they're both very high quality movies in a different way. Iron Man obviously set the stage, did everything right, yada, yada, yada. I do think the third act is not as exciting as the first two acts, and I do think Obadiah, while a good villain, didn't reach his potential as a great villain. With Thor Ragnarok, I think it is the best example in the MCU of a comic book come to life. The shots, and I'm talking the shots, like the literal frames in this movie, are all comic book panels for the most part, which is why I was so baffled with Love and Thunder. Like they didn't try to do that as much. I guess they do in the black and white sequence, but it's like every other scene has a moment like that. Hela, super memorable villain. You don't just let Thor do it alone. You got to bring in another character in the MCU. Who's the perfect character to bring in? The Hulk provides so much humor in that movie, and it kind of turned us around on Thor as a character, right? Obviously, the Avengers movies capitalized on that big time, but it kind of turned the tide on how we felt about Thor. Like, oh, he's not just the dark, brooding guy he's been in the first handful of movies. He can be more than that. He can be comedic. But again, there's so much heart in this film because by the end of the movie, he has to realize he's got to take his father's place and lead his people. And heck, even that somewhat green screen sequence of his father's death was beautiful, and majestic. And that was the first time that I had felt that Norse feeling since the first Thor when he fades off. And so it got all of these comic booky elements right to where while Iron Man is such a beautiful example of this is how you do it, origin story, grounded, all these things, what I want out of this franchise at this point is just super comic booky, really over the top, and that's what Ragnarok, and utterly rewatchable, man. It's one of the better comedies in the MCU, which is why I go rewatch it, and it makes me laugh every single time.
I agree with everything you said. You and I have talked about our shared love of the shot where the dragon is chasing them, flying. That's one of my favorite frames in the MCU, to be honest. Also, not just Hulk. We got the comedic scenes with Doctor Strange in the first act.
Yes. Oh, yeah, you're right.
So we're talking about our leanings towards Marvel projects that incorporate more heroes and things like that, I think Iron Man is the movie that when we look at what we're doing with like Shang-Chi and Black Widow and the Marvels, all of these recent movies, what we think they're all missing are the character driven, the character examinations, the character growth. All of these things are missing from these movies where Iron Man had Tony Stark as a character in that one movie alone is one of the best developed, most realized characters. I mean, forget about Tony Stark's entire arc in the MCU. I mean, good Lord. But just in that one movie, I mean, the character work that's done in that one movie, all of the characters in the Marvels wish they could have had that. And I'm including Miss Marvel, who had an 8-part TV series, right? There's just so much to him and the care that was put into that. It actually reminds me that I don't care to watch a Marvel movie where the villain could be lackluster if everything else around it is so great.
Sure. Yeah.
And obviously, we could talk about all the obvious things. Who means more, Iron Man or Thor to the MCU, Robert Downey Jr. We can do all those obvious things too that we know that you and we both agree. We might have to come back to this because I think it's going to be. This is a lot harder than Love and Thunder versus Dark World. So let's move on to another section of films. So what we just did with Iron Man and Thor, we're going to do with Cap and Avengers. Here's my ranking, and this actually might be the hardest versus of the entire MCU.
Yep.
My ranking of Captain America films from best to worst go from Civil War to First Avenger chronologically. Well, reverse chronologically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think Winter Soldier is better than Civil War?
It's the toughest question.
Yes.
I believe it is. I've circled back around on it as being my favorite because for a long time I had Civil War higher. I had Civil War one spot above Winter Soldier. Then I realized I just think as a character study and just being such a fan of these outside Marvel properties like your Jason Bournes, your spy espionages, your that genre has always spoken to me. And there's a little bit of that in Civil War in the beginning of the film. But it's so heavy in Winter Soldier. I just think that being that genre, it has kind of elevated it above Civil War for me over the years. And now that's no disrespect to First Avenger either. I honestly think that's an underrated movie in the MCU. It doesn't get the credit.
I agree.
But just because the other two movies are so damn good. So I have Winter Soldier, Civil War, First Avenger, but those first two are so close.
All right, I'll go on and put First Avenger behind these two, but let's talk about this a little bit more. So here are what I think are the main two talking points for these films. What we talked about before we started ranking. I am biased and lean towards the ensembles. You lean towards the rewatchability factor. I think Civil War encapsulates that more. So I think as us coming together, I think Civil War makes more sense for this movie mode list to be higher. Here's the thing about Winter Soldier, though. Winter Soldier is the movie that Marvel wishes it could replicate more. Marvel wants to capture... Marvel knows it can kind of do Avengers over and over to varying levels of degree. These ensembles, these big movies that are all, developed in previs, like Marvel has all that stuff down to the point where like every movie is kind of made in that way now, but they wish they could make Winter Soldier again. It's Kevin Feige's. It's what Kevin Feige thinks is the best Marvel movie. And I think most people hold that in higher regard than Civil War, and I'm definitely aware of that. Right now, which movie would you watch right now before going to bed?
To be honest with you, I've seen Winter Soldier more.
Fair enough.
I know that's crazy because Civil War, I think there are more exciting scenes in Civil War. I'm always on YouTube looking at the airport battle whenever I get in that mode. Like, okay, we got to watch an MCU fight scene. It's the airport battle, man. That's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. But I think it might be Winter Soldier just because I am so... That's what, and I mentioned at the beginning of this, I used to be so Team Iron Man. It's not even funny. And then I watched Winter Soldier, and I immediately said Captain America is my favorite superhero. Ever. On screen. Ever. Number one. And so when Civil War came along, I was Team Cap. Because, which, 5 years before that, if I would have told my younger self that, I'd be like, dude, you're crazy. Why are you Team Cap? But Winter Soldier just turned me over, and he became my favorite, not only Avenger, maybe that's changed now with some of these newer movies, but yeah, he was my favorite on-screen superhero for 10 plus years.
I knew definitively that I thought Dark World was better than Love and Thunder. I can go either way on this. I am willing to concede since I won the Dark World fight, and I take far less issue with this decision. So let's call it Winter Soldier, Civil War, First Avenger.
Okay.
All right.
I dig it.
The Avengers films. It's also hard. So the worst Avengers film is Age of Ultron, right?
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Is the second worst Avengers Endgame?
I would say no. I would say
Fuck. Oh, God. This is going to be hard. We might spend the most time on this franchise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I think the first Avengers is the second worst. I think Endgame's a lot better. A lot better.
Let's honestly, I did not anticipate that. Let's move on and come back to this.
Okay.
Because we might spend a lot of time figuring out how the Avengers are ranked. All right. let's move on to the next section of films. Guardians of the Galaxy, and then let's do Guardians of the Galaxy and Spider-Man. Okay.
This one might
so
not
Guardians.
be easy
Oh fuck! You're gonna do it, aren't you?
either. Oh yeah.
The worst Guardians movies, Volume 2, correct?
Yes.
Which one do you have? Number 1, Guardians or Volume 3?
Volume 3.
Oh my god. Fuck. Okay. Let's talk about this. I think we can figure this out. So,
Okay.
Guardians 2 is a movie I've never gotten on board with. First of all, it was the first time I remember thinking to myself, stop trying to make me laugh, Marvel movie. Like, quit.
That's fair.
I actively thought that when Peter and Ego are fighting and Peter just turns into Pac-Man.
Oh yeah.
I just said, stop it. And I remember Christian Harloff. That was a big thing too, because Christian Harloff was kind of spoken out about it. And was like,
I remember that.
It thinks it's a sitcom, and so like it's when people started like getting a little bit divided on Marvel movies was Volume 2. Volume 2, that's like an experimental Marvel movie in the way that I think Iron Man 3 is a little bit, because it's just, I think it's James Gunn as unchecked as he's ever been. More unchecked than the other two movies, and he's just not really playing by a Marvel formula at all. I mean, yeah, of course it ends with but it's a lot of meandering throughout, and I didn't find it particularly compelling. It's like one of those movies where you go into it knowing that Ego's his father the whole time, but you have to watch a movie where it takes forever, well, I don't want to say it takes forever to find out that he's his father, but it's almost like you're kind of waiting for that moment, and then you don't really feel the emotional impact with how the movie explores it. And then it's like some characters are on the side quest, like Rocket. There's some cool action. I'm at that throw. So anyway, my point is, I think Volume 3 is like the best and worst of both movies prior to it.
Oh, okay.
So is Guardians of the Galaxy 3 maybe one of the most emotional MCU movies of all time? Absolutely. Is Rocket my favorite Guardian? Absolutely.
Yeah.
It has the scene, the break-in scene on that dumb planet that I just like don't care about at all, with that Nathan Fillion's in.
Yeah.
And James Lake. That sequence, it's just that little that kind of side quest stuff doesn't engage me in Guardians.
Okay.
So it's kind of just like a lull in the movie. I don't think it's perfect. If I'm coming through Guardians 3, I don't think it's perfect. Great villain? Absolutely. So anyway, I think Guardians 1 is pretty airtight, despite Ronan being underwhelming villain. So what is it about 3 that you think is like obviously better than the first?
Well, I mean, first of all, the villain, I'm just a lot more... I mean a lot more. It's such a 180 from the first movie. That was always my biggest issue, is like I could care less about Ronan. Now thankfully it's more about them coming together, which is always good. I also think Volume 3, the emotional stakes, while obviously a lot higher, I think they're more significant to the individual characters, and I found myself being more on board with how they were developed in Volume 3 rather than Volume 1, because I went back and I watched Volume 1, and while I still loved it, I love that movie so much, I don't think there's a ton of character development with them individually, other than by the time they get to the end, they become a team. I believe the writing in Volume 3 is a lot more impactful in that way, you know, throughout the film, kind of what they're going through, what they're learning, some things that they touch on, some things that are obviously pushing them to, by the end, not want to be together anymore. And it's so funny, you look at the parallels between Volume 1, they become a team by the end. Volume 3, they split up by the end because they realize that there are things that they need to do in their lives that requires them to go elsewhere. And so I think that's kind of a beautiful thing. It features... Volume 3 features the best action sequence far and away the best action sequence of the trilogy. It was unbelievable. I think it looks better. I think it just has like this grit to it that the first movie doesn't have.
I agree.
Maybe that's just watched this one in IMAX theater, didn't watch the first one in IMAX theater, but I've seen it at home too. I just think it looks really good. And I believe the emotional payoff, not necessarily from start to finish, but that final sequence where they're all dancing and singing, I think that's one of the best moments in the MCU in general, ever. Where they're all dancing and singing and run fast for your mother. I think that the way that was put together with the amount of care that James Gunn put into it, like saying goodbye. He's literally saying goodbye to his children because he went to DC. I felt that, man. I felt James Gunn saying goodbye to these characters and these characters saying goodbye to us, even though we know we'll see some of them again. And so I'm getting a much more impactful experience rewatching Guardians 3 than I am Guardians 1. Now, Guardians 1, iconic moments, iconic phrases, but I think it's pretty surface level compared to the third. And even that moment where you're talking about where they go off and do the thing, I think that comedy was just a lot stronger with Nathan Fillion's world than it was in Guardians 2. So I felt like he tweaked the necessary things in Guardians 3 from Guardians 2.
You won me over, even though I'm more emotionally involved in the first movie because I think it's just more balanced with all the characters. Here's the thing. If we're talking about the Gamora problem, the idea that this is a sequel to a movie, but James Gunn, is it ideal that he had to write Quill and Gamora in the way, knowing, having what the Russos did with them. And that's kind of one of those things where I'm like, okay, I've watched every MCU movie up until this point. I don't need, if I'm watching Guardians 3, I'm watching a movie where I'm curious to know how they handle Peter and Gamora, right?
Yeah.
Somebody who is more critical of the MCU and is like, if you're watching the third film in a trilogy, why is this movie addressing what another franchise did with said character? Or like the problems with that in cinema, I understand that criticism 100%. Sure. I don't have to go with it. Because I think the MCU is just a different machine, and we get to talk about the MCU differently than other movies. Can cinema lovers, cinema diehards critique the MCU and say, this is why this doesn't work, this isn't worthy, this isn't my movie? Yeah, all of that is valid. I get it. But the MCU is a different machine. We get to talk about it differently. So I don't hold that kind of stuff against it. I was just reminded, I kind of thought the stuff on the Animal Planet was a little clumsy. I don't remember exactly why. I remember just thinking it didn't really work. And that's like, they're on the Animal Planet, and then there's the sequence where they get to what's-his-face's ship, and they're kind of split up. And I remember thinking it was a little clumsy at times. I haven't seen the entire film since theaters, so I'm honestly just kind of forgetting. But anyway, I just remember it not being airtight for me. But I'm willing to concede because I do think Guardians 3 is a great. And most trilogies wish they could end as well as, look, Iron Man 3, disappointing. We'll get to Quantumania in a minute. Disappointing, right? Like, it just hasn't always been. We decided Winter Soldier is better than Civil War. Like, it's a great achievement to end a trilogy in this way. And plus, let's just talk about how, we obviously think Guardians of the Galaxy is just a special franchise in the MCU. I mean, it's like, it's just super unique. So, what an achievement. The fact that we're debating this at all means that it's pretty special. Awesome. All right. So the Spider-Man trilogy, I think, is the hardest trilogy for me to rate, to be honest, because I think the quality of the movies are so close together. I know. Honestly. And I do. So look, Far From Home is like, it gets buried online, I am not. I don't agree with the Far From Home haters. I think Far From Home is incredibly rewatchable. I think Mysterio is fun as shit to watch as a villain.
Yeah.
I love Far From Home. And it's like, oh, well, the drone sequence, it's a copycat from the Iron Man 2. I think it's sick as hell. I think it's dope. Like, the only criticism I think I agree with is like, okay, yeah, we're seeing Peter Parker. We want to see a Peter Parker movie where he's just Spider-Man. He's still tied up with Tony and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, when we're talking about chapters in this movie, when we're talking about having walked out of Endgame, knowing the next movie is Spider-Man, it doesn't make sense to not show him grieving over Tony's death. It's like, again, with the Gamora thing, it makes sense to us if that's the next chapter. So it's the same thing as Gamora. So that's what we expect. So this criticism of doing all this with Peter Parker and Tony, it's like, I feel like I would have criticized it more if it didn't. Yeah. Like it's ridiculous what you're asking, right? We just needed the standalone Spider-Man movie after Endgame? What are you talking about? So, also the Spider-Man Far From Home. I'm sorry, Far From Home post-credit scene is maybe my favorite post-credit scene in the MCU.
The Captain America?
No, Far From Home with when the unveiling of J. Jonah Jameson on the screen and Mysterio reveals that might be my favorite post-credit scene in the entire MCU.
Yes.
That moment is top 5 theatrical moments for me in theaters because the shock of seeing J.K. Simmons in that moment, but it might be the best cliffhanger in the MCU is Mysterio revealing Peter Parker Spider-Man. And the heartbreak that we went through as a fandom when after Far From Home, we thought that Disney and Sony pulled the plug on their deal and that Sony was going to continue. And we were just like, so we just don't get like the next MCU movie. Do you remember the framework of how that would have worked if that actually happened and we didn't get No Way Home? The next Thor movie or the next MCU movie would have just never acknowledged that Spider-Man was a part of the Avengers. Like they literally contractually could never acknowledge that other movies in the MCU existed. That would have been the worst ever. That would have been the worst thing to happen to the MCU is if that deal stayed undone.
Agreed.
Do you remember that? Anyway, so I think Far From Home is sick. And could it be the worst movie in this trilogy? Probably. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of go over that. I want to hear from you first. I would love to hear your ranking of these 3 films.
I have No Way Home first.
Okay.
Homecoming second.
Okay.
Far From Home last. But that's not me. That's not me saying I disagree with you. I actually really like Far From Home. I think it's really good. For a while, I had it above Homecoming. But my issue with Far From Home is that first portion of the film before they get on that boat in whatever country they're in. The humor, they're trying to replicate the humor from Homecoming, and it's just not funny. I feel about Far From Home's humor how you feel about Guardians 2. That's how
I think it's funny that you stopped to explain your decision about where you put like that's not the issue. Far From Home is the worst of the 3. I'm with you.
Okay.
But I love that because I spoke so passionately about Far From Home. You felt like that's the movie you had to defend your reasoning for.
I want to make sure.
No, it's No Way Home and Homecoming. So I go back and forth with this. I do think that there's more the revisionist history of No Way Home. I think is valid to a degree. Now, did I sob from beginning to end with that film? Yes.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
And, like, what you got out of that No Way Home experience, you just can't replicate that with any other movie.
Nope.
Like other movie it doesn't even franchise or not. You can't do that with movies.
Nope.
It's such a singular experience, and the reason why Marvel fans are so passionate. So I'm willing to concede because it's much more mind-boggling to me that No Way Home exists and that they pulled it off to any certain degree. Now, is it perfect? No. Is Homecoming damn good as well? Yes. But I'm willing to concede No Way Home being better than Homecoming. But like I said, I think the quality of these movies are so close together. So it could have gone either way.
I'm with you.
Do you have anything else to say about like Homecoming or anything? Or did we just
with that? I'm with you. It does feel like we always say that John Watts has no style, but it is kind of a kudos to him that they all feel so similarly to each other, and they all have the same vibe and the same tone, and even No Way Home still has that trademark sense of humor that the first two have. So yeah, I like all three of them. I just think that No Way Home experience is, and even when I rewatch it now, when I see Toby and Andrew come through the portal, I just smile. And it's so funny because they stop and pause to wait for the audience to clap. I don't care.
That's right.
I smile. You can't help yourself.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Is Spider-Man No Way Home better than Guardians 3? That's hard. It's hard because we are emotionally tied to No Way Home more. But Guardians 3 could be the better movie.
I believe it is the better movie. I have it one spot, literally one spot above No Way Home because I went on this pure occasion because of some of these revisionist flaws that have been pointed out to me. I went quality over nostalgia and rewatchability on this occasion, but they're so close. So close.
I think this is one of those times when the fandom is going to be like, going to look at this list and think you're out of your mind.
Maybe.
For putting Guardians over No Way Home. I don't think it's that crazy to say Volume 3 is better than No Way Home. Yeah. Now, which movie am I going to watch right now? No Way Home.
For sure. I agree with you.
And which movie is more tied to my... You know what? I think No Way Home might be above Guardians 3.
Really?
Yeah, we might have to come back to it, but that's difficult.
But the film, my thing is not that I'm being snarky, I just think the filmmaking in Guardians 3 is just
I agree.
So far above.
I'm actually with you, even though I don't like it more. I don't have any problem with that. Is No Way Home better than the original Guardians?
I'd be okay with it.
I'm okay with it too. I'm okay with it too. Is Homecoming better than Guardians of the Galaxy?
I would put Guardians above Homecoming.
I agree. Is Far From Home better than Guardians 2? Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay, good.
Now, again, right. I don't hate Guardians 2. I don't hate it. I think there's some good things about it. I think the Yondu stuff's amazing. I think
the Mantis and Drax stuff, I think Mantis and Drax suck. I do not enjoy that.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that.
The mean-spirited stuff, I just don't think it's funny, to be honest. I just think it's weird. And it's actually maybe one of the only times I'm just kind of uncomfortable. But again, that whole movie, I'm just kind of like, stop doing that. I feel that way about so much in that movie. So
I kind of like that part. Yeah, that's funny.
Like even Taserface, that is not a joke to me. Like I don't understand. Like I get why people think it's funny, but it's just like I don't know. I don't really get why that's funny. Just calling somebody or it's the fact that his name is Taserface, but it's like why would that be his name? That's what I was thinking about. I was like, why would that be that guy's name? It just seems like a dumb joke.
That's the joke.
You can just feel James Gunn writing something stupid. Like it takes me out of the movie. I'm just like that wouldn't be anybody's name, so I don't get why that's funny. That's the mindset that movie puts me in. I'm not having fun with that.
The joke that I hate was the not ripe. I couldn't stand that when they kept saying it's not ripe. It's not ripe. I couldn't stand that. So I'm with you on some of those, and the Pac-Man thing was very stupid. Very, very stupid.
Also, the worst thing, the worst set of jokes, or the worst thing that the MCU has ever done comedically is calling Rocket any other animal other than a raccoon. Suck.
That bothered you.
That humor sucks. It's never funny to me. Calling him a rabbit, a weasel, whatever movie he's in. The Russo brothers do it too. But just calling Rocket it makes no sense. And it's not funny. It's not. I think it sucks, actually. I think it's the worst. I think it's the worst writing in the MCU, and I'm glad we never have to do that again. Sorry. I just think it sucks.
I'm more amused. I'm more amused at your hatred than the joke itself.
It's lazy. It's terrible. Anyway, I'm getting riled up for no reason.
Maybe I'm a James Gunn defender. I like the Scooby Doo movies. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
The worst trilogy in the entire MCU, Ant-Man.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. Yeah.
From best to worst, it's chronological order, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Beautiful. Doctor Strange and Doctor Strange 2. I guess we're out of the trilogies now. Doctor Strange is better than Multiverse of Madness, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So Ant-Man and Doctor Strange both work if we rank them chronologically. The question is Doctor Strange better than Ant-Man?
I would say it is a stronger movie than Ant-Man. Yes.
Of all the MCU rankings I've done, from video to video, I think these two are where I flip-flop the most.
I flipped them a lot too. Yeah.
On any day of the week, I could rank one of these movies better than the other.
Ant-Man's a hell of a comedy, man. It's a hell of a comedy. It really is.
You're going Ant-Man?
Well,
it's almost like... Go ahead.
I would still go Strange just because I feel like the quote-unquote magic of the first Doctor Strange, it took the Iron Man formula, bad villain included, took the Iron Man formula and twisted it just enough and made it to where it still felt fresh and super interesting. And you got an asshole of a main character, but you grow to love him by the end. You've got a grounded story, but there's a mystical feeling to it. And then the Dormammu I've come to bargain at the end was awesome. I mean, that was like, it felt game-changing the first time I watched it. But yeah, I think that movie's pretty special. I also think it's one of the best-looking movies in the MCU, just from a grounded standpoint. But I love Ant-Man as a comedy. Ant-Man's great, but I'd give the edge to Doctor Strange.
I enjoy both movies. I think Ant-Man has the best plethora of characters. I think the characters are handled very well. I love the incorporation of Hank Pym. Those like flashback sequence. I guess they're not all flashbacks. I'm mostly seeing on like computer screens of Hank Pym, like in the Cold War's Ant-Man. Like that almost should have been Ant-Man 2. Like a First Avenger style, like Cold War film with Hank Pym. That would have. I mean, that excited me more than some of the other things that we explore in Doctor Strange. I think Doctor Strange has a Dark World-esque villain. I mean, I love Mads Mikkelsen more for sure, but it's not like his villain means anything to me.
I'm with you.
I don't really resonate with any of the other characters. It's almost like another thing too is like Wong. Like Wong's good in the movie. You almost like never think you're gonna see him again. But it's like Wong we grew to love the more he was in movies, but I'm almost kind of like, but then again, it's like Ant-Man might have created the greater sin because they just got worse and worse with their movies. And I do think it's valid that the more movies you add to a franchise, the worse it kills the other movies. like Quantumania kind of makes Ant-Man worse, in my opinion, because it's
Okay.
it's like the Star Wars sequels, right? It's like
Yeah.
watching The Force Awakens and knowing where it goes means that I like The Force Awakens less, because it's like, why am I watching this? That's what that's like to me. But then again, these are neck and neck. I think I would honestly pick Ant-Man over Doctor Strange.
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
You want to do that?
Yeah, because I'm always flipping them. I believe I have Strange. I have Strange a few spots above Ant-Man, but this is the quality level of everything's really, really good, and so I'm okay if you want to go that direction.
Is Multiverse of Madness better than Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it is.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So with these two franchises, it's Ant-Man, Strange, Multiverse, Wasp, Quantumania. I think this is going to be a lot easier, so we can crush through the remaining films. Black Panther's better than Wakanda Forever, correct? Bro, one of them has Black Panther in it, the other doesn't. Come on.
I know. I think Wakanda Forever is a better movie. I think it's a better movie. I don't agree. I think Black Panther falls completely flat in that third act.
Oh, yeah. Black Panther has a third act problem for sure.
Yeah.
I think the moment where he takes Killmonger to the sunset, I think redeems it a little bit. But I mean, like, even like, I think that Marvel has all kinds of problems with their visual effects, and I'm kind of surprised we haven't really touched on it. And Black Panther is one of the times where I remember thinking, yeah, they rushed these movies out. Like, I can see it. I think that it doesn't. I don't think it's enough to take away from the entire experience. And I mean, the fact that it was a cultural phenomenon, and I just Chadwick Boseman. It's the only time we've seen Chadwick Boseman in his own movie as Black Panther.
That's fair.
And it's just like, I think look. I love Wakanda. I love Wakanda Forever.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
I will never be caught dead saying that it's better than the first.
I think it's way more impressive than the first. Way more impressive. And I say that because the hand that he was dealt and what he got out of it.
Yeah.
Is
I'm
more
not
impressive.
I'm not taking anything away from that. I am blown away by the end result of Wakanda Forever. I cried like a baby in that movie. I didn't cry I don't think I cried in the first Black Panther movie, but you know, I think like the claw stuff is great. I love Martin Freeman's Ross, not Thunderbolt Ross. I don't think the Ironheart stuff quite works. I think Namor is sick.
Namor's awesome.
And I think that I don't know how I feel entirely about like killing Angela Bassett off in that movie. That's a decision. Like, I know that's comic faithful, but it just like you already have to do so much with like Shuri getting over T'Challa, and it's like that's so I don't know. It's just it's
man.
So weird.
He made some bold choices in this movie.
He did.
Man.
He did. In the post-credit scene where Shuri meets T'Challa on the beach, I'm sobbing every time I see that. It's a super powerful film. I can't.
As long as they're close in the overall ranking, as long as they're close to each other, I'm okay with that because I know more people agree with that.
Okay, so is Black Panther better than Ant-Man? Come on, man. It is.
Oh, I don't think it is. I think Ant-Man's better.
Is Black Panther better than Doctor Strange? Well, you think Doctor Strange is better than
Ant-Man? Yeah.
All right, let's keep going. We'll come back. Captain Marvel's better than the Marvels, right?
Who cares?
Don't do this to me. Okay.
No, you're right.
Captain Marvel's better than the Marvels. Okay.
No, I think the Marvels is better, but they're both at the bottom. So no, they're Captain Marvel's terrible. It's terrible. It's the worst movie in the MCU. So
I don't agree with that, but I also don't need to spend any time defending it. So
they're so bad.
The Incredible Hulk is better than Captain Marvel.
Yes.
I actually don't know, but I'll put it up there regardless. Is Black Widow better than the Incredible Hulk? I think it is.
I think by a hand, like a tiny bit.
All right, I won't even argue it. I think Black Widow's pretty sick, actually. But
okay,
let's just go on and put it up there. Is Shang-Chi better than Black Widow?
Yes.
I'm good with that. If I had to choose right now, I would watch Black Widow. As a matter of fact, I've rewatched Black Widow. Yeah, I think Black Widow's pretty sick.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
But no, I'm good with that. I'll push Shang-Chi above it. Eternals, is it better than Shang-Chi?
No.
No, it's not. Is Eternals better than Black Widow?
I know you might fight this. Man. I think I think it's a little better. A little better.
Is Eternals better than Incredible Hulk?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. I don't agree with that, but I will concede and stop there.
Have you watched Incredible Hulk in the last 10 years?
I have. I think there are aspects to it that are fun. Like the college campus fight, there is more like violence and crunch to that fight scene than probably anything else in the MCU. That college campus scene is sick.
That's great.
It feels violent, and you're kind of like on the edge of your seat when he is like running and he gets taken out by those like sonic booms. Like all those moments are so well done. Then he tears apart the Humvee and he's like crashing it against the ground. All that stuff hits so hard. It's so much fun. The stuff with Edward Norton and Liv Tyler, it puts me to sleep. It is, it's the worst relationship in the MCU. It is so dull, so boring, awful.
It's atrocious. It's bad. It is the worst dialogue I've ever seen in a Marvel movie. Ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. There's no defending it. I don't need Edward Norton to ever appear as the Hulk in an MCU project again. He didn't need to be in the Avengers. We don't need to see Liv Tyler again. Having William Hurt as Ross in the other movies, that makes the most sense. You don't need to acknowledge it in any other way.
Yeah.
We're going to get What's-His-Face in Brave New World. That's fine. But it's crazy that that's the movie that exists, and we've extracted the villains from it, but not the heroic aspects.
Thank God.
It makes sense to me. It always has. So anyway, when I was younger, like when I saw it, I thought it was awesome.
Oh, same here.
Like
I defended it for years.
I had a Blu-ray steelbook of it. Watched it a lot after it came out. But it was kind of one of those things where like once more of the MCU came out and I saw what they were doing, I realized it's like, no, this isn't good.
Yeah.
Because there were like 2 years where we didn't have another project. It was just that and Iron Man. And it's just like, yeah, this is sick. Anyway. The final film, Deadpool and Wolverine. So because this is dead last, I'm going to skip a lot of the movies that we've already talked about. And I'll just ask, is Deadpool and Wolverine better than Ant-Man and Doctor Strange?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say yeah.
All right, I'll put it above Ant-Man, and that's where we'll leave that.
Okay.
It's so funny because if you see how this is formatted, because I've done it in rows, right now, when I'm looking at my letterbox, it says Guardians Volume 2 is better than Deadpool and Wolverine. But it's just like the way that the rows worked out. All right, we've gone through it once. All right.
Okay.
So we're going to have to make some hard decisions now. Okay. And so, how much time? We've been doing this for an hour. All right, we need to get to the end here.
We're doing good.
So let's revisit the Avengers films and debate these, and then I think we can crush the rest of this list. Age of Ultron's the worst, right? So it really just comes down to the other three. Now, this is a Spider-Man situation. The quality of these films is so close together. This is going to be hard.
I don't know if it is, Ryan.
Okay.
I think the Russo brothers' direction is so far and away better than Joss Whedon's. Now, I love the first Avengers. I have a lot of nostalgia for that movie. When I watch it today, it looks like I'm watching a TV show. It looks like I'm and not a new TV show, like a TNT drama. That's what it looks like. It does not feel cinematic to me. I think everything about it's amazing. I think the dialogue is great, back and forth. You can see these heroes together for the first time. I just think it looks kind of cheap. That's my issue with the movie.
I agree, but we've kind of already decided the MCU. It's a bad looking franchise for the most part.
Sure.
But everything else is firing on all cylinders.
That's great. Yeah.
And we obviously have all of the things that we can obviously talk about. We won't bore you. Everybody knows, the accomplishment, what it was like to go into that theater, combine all these franchises into one movie. We'd never done it before, and then the fact that they pulled off all these moments. So it might be the best banter, some of the best banter between the heroes. Mm-hmm. That's where all the Civil War stuff comes from, is that interaction between Tony and Steve. So we have all that kind of stuff. Great Loki.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? I'll tell you what. If we say, I will concede this argument right now, if we just say Infinity War, Endgame, Avengers.
Infinity War 1?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Perfect. All right.
I like that.
Is Infinity War better than The Winter Soldier? This is where I go. I've seen Infinity War 100,000 fucking times. And the amount of heroes, all that stuff, the rewatchability, it's Infinity War.
What?
Honestly,
I'm cool with it. Yeah.
If I'm unbound, if you're not sitting here on this podcast, Infinity War is number one. I'm just letting you know. But it depends on how much of a leash you keep me on.
Can we? Is it weird to make that decision right now? I think it should be number one as well.
Let's do it.
You want to do it? Let's do it.
I did it.
Since we
I did it. Is Endgame better than? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I believe it's the perfect encapsulation of what this franchise has represented all throughout the years, and it is the biggest blockbuster magnum opus in terms of what it did, what it represented, and obviously the cliffhanger that it left people on since Empire Strikes Back. I think it's that big of an accomplishment. And so while Winter Soldier has my heart, I am more than okay with looking at the accomplishment that Infinity War was. And so yeah, let's do it. Number one.
I think Infinity War is the hardest movie to replicate.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like, how many times have we seen like the Iron Man ripoffs within the MCU, and we're just like, this is still fine, this is still good. I think the first time we see an Infinity War ripoff, I think that's when we'll be the most like, they just tried to capture Infinity War and they fucking failed. Like, that's gonna be the thing that divides us on an Avengers movie, is if they try that again. You and I saw that film together. Yes, we made a video, talking about it on my channel, and I think we've kind of carried that experience with us.
Yes,
and it means a lot. Is Endgame better than Winter Soldier?
I would say no, but again, it's very, very close.
I think The Winter Soldier is a better movie from beginning to end. It's weird when I get Captain America and then some watching Endgame. And so it's like, why would I not watch Endgame over The Winter Soldier? I think Winter Soldier is a better movie, though.
Okay, cool.
But also, The Winter Soldier doesn't have like all of the great moments that the end battle sequence does.
That's true. You're right.
It's close. Let's put Endgame behind Winter Soldier, though. Is Endgame better than Civil War?
I would say yeah. I would say yeah. That's also close.
I don't think it is.
You don't?
I think
okay.
No. If you're not sitting here, Civil War would probably be my number 2 film.
Oh, okay. All right. Hey, I these four.
We already can't do that. Yeah.
I'm cool with it.
We already can't do it because we're gonna do Winter Soldier over Civil War. But I think if I put Winter Soldier over Civil War, I think you need to give me Civil War over.
I give it to you, man. Yeah, I give it to you.
All right.
I love it.
All right, fair enough. First Avenger. I think we've settled it. Is the Avengers better than First Avenger?
I would put Avengers over First Avenger. Yes.
Okay, but First Avengers better than Age of Ultron?
Yes.
I agree. Okay, perfect. All right, so we've settled all that. So let's okay. So right now what I'm looking at are 5 rows of movies. So right now I'm going to start bringing like row 3, row 2, and I'm going to start bringing movies up to the forefront. Because right now my first row is Infinity War, Iron Man, Ragnarok, Thor, Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2, Thor the Dark World. Then it jumps to Love and Thunder, then the Winter Soldier, right? So we got to bring all these pieces back together. Is the Winter Soldier, so we're trying to find, we could potentially have a different number 2. Is the Winter Soldier better than Iron Man?
Yes.
Fucking hell, man.
Yes. Way better.
Done. Is Captain America Civil War better than Iron Man?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it is.
I think Winter Soldier and Civil War, I think this is just where it's like, this is what the MCU can be, and it's only possible because of Iron Man, but I would rather watch those 2 movies over the first Iron Man right now.
Okay.
Is Avengers Endgame better than Thor Ragnarok?
I would personally barely put it above Thor Ragnarok.
All right. It's above Thor Ragnarok. Is it better than Iron Man?
I would say yes, but I think there's a good argument to be made that with a combined list, Iron Man should get some more love here.
I think Avengers Endgame has to stay behind Iron Man.
That's fair.
But fair. In front of Thor Ragnarok. All right. So here's what we need to do. We need to right now we have,
because remember
Thor.
I argued Ragnarok above Iron Man, and so
yeah,
I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that decision.
Okay. Okay. Right now, Thor, the first Thor, is in the number 7 spot, so we're gonna find its replacement right here, right now. Is it the Avengers film? First Avengers?
Yeah.
Right now, I have a lot of movies that I can put here, but right now, this is the next best movie on the list.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So right now, the top 7, Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Iron Man, Endgame, Ragnarok, Avengers. Mm-hmm. We still have a lot of great movies to get to.
I like that.
It is, but that's our top 7 as of right now. Is the first Avenger better than Thor?
Yes.
I agree. Is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 better than the first Avenger?
Yes.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is currently our number 8 film.
Okay.
Is Spider-Man No Way Home better than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? We've already done this. We've not
already done
correct.
This. Yes.
Okay. So that's our number 9 film. All right. I think we've done most of these. I don't think our top is going to change much. So let's have some fun at the bottom.
No.
Is The Marvels the worst MCU film?
I think it's Captain Marvel, but you do you, man.
I think The Marvels has to be worse.
Okay.
Is anything worse than either of the 2 Captain Marvel films? I have a vote.
I had The Dark World down there.
I think the worst MCU film to date, the worst, is Quantum Mania.
Oh, wow.
It's the only MCU film I openly despise.
Okay. I don't despise it.
I actively hated that movie in theaters while watching it.
I'm cool with putting it like second or third. I still think one of the Marvels has to be at the bottom. It's just to represent. It has to be, one of them has to be down there.
So let's do the worst film in the MCU is the Marvels for
That's
you.
fine.
But then again, it's like, okay, so neither of our worst film is the last one. I think that needs to change. So it comes down, I think Quantum Mania is obviously worse than Captain Marvel.
Wow. Man.
So what is it? I guess I need to hear more about why you hate Captain Marvel so much, because I just think it's a baseline film. I don't have strong feelings either way.
So I guess I don't actively despise it. I don't think there really is an MCU movie that I actively despise. I just think it is a hollow shell of the template of all of the standalone Marvel movies without the interesting characters, without the heart, without the villain, without the dynamics, without the... I mean, it's the only movie, like at least Quantumania, I really like Ant-Man, and I'm rooting for Ant-Man. I'm not rooting for Captain Marvel in her own movie. I don't care about her. It's the only one that I'm watching where I'm like, I just don't care about her. And then when she came in Endgame, that was the first time that I cared because she was written better, I guess. And then even then, Brie Larson, I don't know what it is. I think she's a phenomenal actor. She's deserved awards like this and that.
I agree.
It's the only one.
She doesn't embody that character.
She does not embody that character. And I think her standalone movie, and she doesn't embody her character that she's playing in her standalone movie, I think that is a big crime. And at least with Ant-Man, I've got Ant-Man. I think the dynamic with his daughter is pretty good. Like, I've got some things in there that I can attach to. I just can't, with Captain Marvel, I can't attach.
I think that because Captain Marvel is just like a baseline film. I like it enough because it's different at the time, and I think it's still kind of. I think it means a little bit more that we walked into that movie with the tease from Infinity War. We were excited about her in Endgame, right? I think there's just still some stuff that lifts that movie up. You know, I think we all got on board with Ben Mendelsohn as Talos. Quantum Mania, I walked into that movie already thinking we don't need to do anything with the quantum realm anymore. Like there was just nothing else to do. It is not compelling.
Yeah.
You made it and utilized it as a plot device in Endgame. that was already kind of a stretch. It's like, okay, I don't really know how this works, but I'm willing to go with it. But it's like, we didn't need to do this in the first place. It's not going to live up to the Kang hype because we're pretty much just done with that character already. It's the worst movie for the supporting characters. I don't think anything in the quantum realm works. And what was the last thing? It's the first time I don't have any sort of emotional connection to him and Cassie. I don't like whatever Catherine Newton. I don't have any sort of connection to her in that role because of that movie. Could I in the future? Maybe.
Yeah.
But I didn't walk away from that movie thinking the Ant-Man franchise is better for this, the MCU franchise is better for this. Like, there's literally nothing to take from that movie. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Like I said before, I think pivoting away from the quantum stuff or from Kang is the ultimate detriment to Quantumania. I think that is it just becomes such an irrelevant piece of the puzzle going forward. So if I give you Quantumania, will you give me Captain Marvel #2 worst?
Yep.
Okay. Let's do it.
All right. So let me list my 1 through 9 and let's see if we need to make any adjustments. Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Iron Man, Endgame, Ragnarok, Avengers, Guardians 3, No Way Home.
Avengers, Guardians.
Right?
3. I like that list. It's close to mine, to be honest. I like that.
Is Deadpool and Wolverine better than any of those movies?
I would say it's close, but no.
I agree. All right, so let's start with this one. Is it better than the first Avenger?
I think it's more monumental. Yeah, I think I would put it above the first Avenger.
Let's do it.
Okay.
What's the next one on the list that was notable?
Guardians 1, maybe.
Is Guardians of the Galaxy 1 better than the first Avenger?
Yes.
I'm good with that. All right, the next big one. Spider-Man Homecoming. Is it better than the first Avenger?
Man, that's tough.
I think it is by a hair. I think Tom Holland out the gate crushes Spider-Man. I think I didn't love Captain America until his second movie.
That's a good argument. That's good. They're so close for me. I'm cool with that.
Is Spider-Man Homecoming better than Guardians?
I would have Guardians ever so slightly above Homecoming.
All right, I'm good with that. Ant-Man, is it better than Captain America, the first Avenger?
No.
I'm good with that. Is it better than Thor?
Yes.
I agree. It's better than Thor. Is Doctor Strange better than Thor?
Yes.
I agree. Is Ant-Man better than the first Avenger?
Boy, that's tough. I would say first Avenger above Ant-Man.
All right. Fair enough. I think a few years ago, there would have been no way. But I think over time, I think more fondly over the first Avenger. I think Endgame helps with that. But I'm good with that. All of these are close. All of these are neck and neck, right? Like depending on the day, we could change. All right, here's the next big notable film. Now, I already know how you feel about this because this is a little disappointing to me. So let's start a little low. Is Black Panther better than Thor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank God you said yes. Is Black Panther better than Doctor Strange?
It's debatable. If you want to give it the go ahead, do it.
I think Killmonger alone makes it better than Doctor Strange.
All right.
I also think Killmonger alone makes it better than Ant-Man.
Yeah, I'm cool with that too. Because I had Doctor Strange above Ant-Man. I'm cool with that.
Is Black Panther better than the first Avenger?
I have the first Avenger higher.
I think it's better than the first Avenger. All right, so here, I'm going to put it behind first Avenger, but above Ant-Man and Doctor Strange. So what is it about the first Avenger that makes it better than Black Panther?
I just think when I go back and watch the first Black Panther, there's so much hype around it and the Oscar stuff and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm watching, I don't necessarily understand that level of hype other than this being a prominent and notable and a hero that I think the Marvel Universe really needed to see. You know what I mean? And there's so much about this movie, like the score and the cinematography and things that you don't often see in Marvel movies that are amazing. But it is one that just, as you're watching, it just kind of starts to fall off. And by the end, I just don't like the third act of Black Panther. I really don't. I've always been so against that. With First Avenger, I think that's a movie that gets better as it goes. I think that's a film that ends.
I agree.
On an insane high note when the plane crashes and ends on an emotional note. And by the end of the movie, you're like, I believe that this skinny kid hopping on the grenade with the presence of Tommy Lee Jones scoffing at him, I believe he turned into Captain America. And also, I look at that movie and I'm like, all these little underutilized characters. I wouldn't say underutilized. Characters that never
Stanley
returned.
Tucci.
Stanley Tucci, Tommy Lee Jones, and all these little... I don't watch Marvel movies nowadays and see them taking advantage of these minute characters that just don't barely have any screen time. But in this film, I'm like, even the jock guy who was an asshole to Steve, like even he's kind of memorable. Beating up on him in the alley, like those guys are memorable. And I'm like, I think this movie just does the little things right, man.
It has great character moments. I think Peggy, like we talk about just like loving the stuff with Steve and Peggy in that movie is great.
So good, man. So the opposite of Hulk.
Yeah. So like I respond to that relationship more, I think, and I think the only thing that Black Panther obviously has over First Avenger is Killmonger.
It's Killmonger,
but,
for sure. But think about this,
we're talking about... Go ahead.
And it's a Dark Knight situation. Killmonger overshadows Black Panther in his own movie. Now, that's good, that's bad, but in First Avenger, it is Cap. Even with Red Skull, a good villain, it is Cap all the way through.
All right. I'm good with it.
You cool with it?
We're almost done. We're close. There's just a few other things that we kind of need to needle through here.
Where did we end off with Deadpool and Wolverine? Where was that one again?
It's number 10.
Okay, cool.
It's above Guardians, right below No Way Home.
I like that. That's fine.
Okay. The only movie that I think is out of place, just at first glance, is Guardians 3 at number 8.
Okay.
Like if this is my personal list, I don't have Guardians 3 over. I don't think I would have it over Homecoming. Even that's our number 12. So
right.
I mean, I'm good with it. I'm not asking for it to move. But I think I'm good with Guardians having representation in the top 10. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. But I just personally, that's the weirdest thing to me compared to what I would do with my list. All right, we're almost done. So let's talk about Far From Home. Is Far From Home better than Thor?
Yes.
it's neck and neck, but I would watch Far From Home right now over Thor.
I would too.
They're close. Is Avengers Age of Ultron better than Thor?
Those are close.
I think they're close too.
Those are close. I may, I don't know. At this moment in time, I may give the edge to Age of Ultron because there's just something about Ultron that he is a bit of a misfire, but he's still a compelling villain. I think the action's really fun. I think the team being divided is really good. Some good stuff in it.
I think there's enough there. And again, we talk about how the MCU has improved upon this movie, sort of like it did with Dark World. I think it's even better in the case of Age of Ultron. I revisit how we've changed our understanding of it. And it's just kind of hard to argue watching an Avengers film. It's clearly the worst. It's clearly the worst, but it's just like what a gift to be able to watch an Avengers movie. I'm good with putting it over Thor. Is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 better than Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
I don't agree.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't like Iron Man 2. I guess you don't.
I'll go with it because I think Iron Man 2 is more universally disliked, and it's used. It's kind of like Incredible Hulk in the way that I don't see why Iron Man 2 is this big cardinal sin. I really don't. Is it a rush sequel? Yes. I still think it's infinitely rewatchable.
Okay. I like moments.
Like if it was on TV and I was flipping through the channels, I would stop at Iron Man 2. Don't have an issue with that. Also, okay, infinitely rewatchable, that might be the strongest hyperbole. I take it back. I wouldn't say it's infinitely rewatchable. Anyway, let's do it though. Guardians 2 over Iron Man 2. Guardians 2 over Iron Man 3. I'd have to say no.
That's fair. I mean, I
understand the argument because I understand the argument because of how divisive Iron Man 3 is. But let's leave that there for now.
Yeah, I'm cool with it.
Is Multiverse of Madness better than Iron Man 2?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Is it better than Guardians 2?
Yeah.
Is it better than Iron Man 3?
Yeah.
Dude, oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put Multiverse of Madness over Iron Man 3 if it stops there and we don't make it better than Thor.
What was the Thor? It's close. I would there's more to it that's interesting than Thor. That would be my argument, but they're close, so I'm cool with that.
I think Multiverse of Madness is a failure overall.
I think the title is a failure. If you take away the title, if you rename that Doctor Strange 2,
I mean,
then I think so many people are cool with it.
I still have a problem with the movie. I agree. I think the title is an empty promise, but I would still have an issue with the movie. I think the movie has sauce. I think it's the worst movie that has the most sauce in the MCU, probably.
That's fair. I think the only part of that movie that I dislike is when they try to shoehorn in the cameos. That's the only part that I actually dislike. Everything else, if you took that part out and then connected those two pieces and maybe added in one more fight scene, I think it's a top 15 in MCU movie, top 20 maybe. But
it's number 20 now.
Okay, yeah, okay. I guess that's
all right. The next look, how far are we going to take Wakanda Forever? I can't let it go above Black Panther at 14. Is Wakanda Forever better than Far From Home?
I would say Far From Home, yes.
Is it better than Doctor Strange?
This is where they're all so similar.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm
I
going to
agree.
go with whatever you want on this because they're all like good quality. What do you respond to more, Ryan? Doctor Strange or Wakanda Forever?
Emotionally, Wakanda Forever. But
All right.
I would rewatch Doctor Strange. I've seen Doctor Strange more, obviously, because of time.
Okay.
But, you know.
I love both of them, so I'm cool.
I also don't like the idea of having Wakanda Forever and Black Panther back-to-back on the list. I don't think that's interesting.
Yeah, it looks weird aesthetically.
So Black Panther 14, Ant-Man 15, Doctor Strange 16, Wakanda Forever 17.
That's cool. Yeah.
Is Shang-Chi better than Multiverse of Madness?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna
I'm
hate
going to
me
have
on
to...
this one. You're gonna hate
Look,
me.
I
think this is a really good movie.
I like it too. I don't know if I can let you put it above Thor.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
You would put it above Thor?
A lot higher. Yeah.
Okay. Settle down. Is it bad? I will put it above Thor if it doesn't go... Hold on. You know what? Let me think about this. You think it's better than Age of Ultron?
Yes.
Let's put it above Age of Ultron. I don't know if I can put it above Far From Home.
Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with
All right,
that.
let's do it. Let's do it. It's number
That's
19. What's the next one? All right, my girl, Black Widow. The only thing, you watch this movie, and it's the only issue I have, and this is not a unique idea, it obviously should have come after Civil War.
For sure.
It just should have been between Civil War and Infinity War when it was released. I can only hold that against this movie so much because overall I think it's an insanely watchable movie. I think the opening, the cold open is sick. I think
agree with that.
the Smells Like Teen Spirit cover and the snapshots of Dreykov and all that kind of stuff, I think that is sick. I think it's awesome. Florence Pugh, I'm a Pugh head. Like one of the greatest additions in Phase 4 and 5 post Endgame era is Florence Pugh to the MCU, maybe the best addition. And it's just my type of movie. It's a movie that I would love to watch regardless of the MCU. I think it's goes for the Winter Soldier. Relax. I'm not saying it's as good as that in quality, but I think it's another example of that. Like a Ryan Snelling movie, it would be how the MCU does Jason Bourne. And that's what this is to me. Do the visual effects get weird in this? Yeah, we can do that. But I think overall, I actually don't have that big of a problem with like how Taskmaster. I understand. I understand the opportunity of actually just being more faithful to Taskmaster, but I also understand on a story level Dreykov doing that to like if the idea is mind control on women and then having a warrior copy the Avengers to take them out. I think like I get that. Did you have to call it Taskmaster? No. But anyway, I think that movie works. I really do. So it's just a matter of how high do you let me put it. I'll be honest. I would watch Black Widow right now over Age of Ultron.
Wow. I can't let you put it that high. Can't do that.
Will you let me put it above Multiverse of Madness?
This hurts. You're hurting me. This is hurting me right now. How hard are you going to fight for this one? That's my question.
Is Black Widow better than Iron Man 3?
No.
I think it is.
But no, I think Iron Man 3 is better. Just because my issue with Black Widow is the third act commits a Black Panther, but like times 5.
I don't think so. I think the Black Panther third act looks worse. I mean, I know
I think
Black Widow's been nitpicked by like
Yeah.
VFX artist reacts and that kind of shit, but
I just think story-wise, why did it
Okay.
feel the need to go from a really interesting spy thriller in the first act to hiding out, it's kind of boring in the second act, to just this big explosion fest flying through the air? I thought Dreykov was kind of forgettable. I thought Taskmaster was kind of
cool.
lame. Just a lot of
All right.
things.
will you give me Black Widow over Iron Man 3?
I'll give you that one.
I mean,
That's
we're in
fine.
like the bottom like 12 here.
That's
so.
fine. Yeah, that's okay.
All right. So I would put it above Multiverse of Madness, but I'm good with it here. Actually, I would put it over Shang-Chi as well, but I get why people like Shang-Chi more. I get it. It's just my personal preference. I guess the next that might be where we stop. So
Where
the
did
only thing I'm observing now is Thor: The Dark World and Love and Thunder are neck and neck. And I know it was already a fight for me to put Dark World over Love and Thunder. Would you put Ant-Man and the Wasp above both Thor movies?
Yes.
I would too.
Yes.
I don't like Ant-Man and the Wasp at all, but I'm good
Same.
with that. Would you
Yeah.
put Ant-Man and the Wasp above Iron Man 2?
No.
I wouldn't either. Okay, beautiful.
No.
But Thor: The Dark World and Love and Thunder are still neck and neck. So is the Eternals better than Love and Thunder?
Yes. Oh, yeah. I don't
Is
hate Eternals. I don't hate Eternals.
Is Eternals better than Dark World?
Yes.
I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Let's put it above Love and Thunder. Do you think Eternals is better than Ant-Man and the Wasp?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. When I think of Ant-Man and the Wasp, I just think of conventional. Seen it 1,000 times. Seen better versions of it. Eternals is at least unique. Maybe it didn't all come together, but it's at least unique to where it doesn't feel like all of the other ones.
All right. I'm good with that. I don't want to put it over Iron Man 2.
Oh, all right. That's fine. I would. I know most people wouldn't though, so I'm cool with that.
I would watch a Robert Downey Jr. movie over. It's just the worst Iron Man movie. I think is more entertaining than 10
That's
Marvel
fair.
movies. To be honest.
That's fair.
So Eternals is a lot higher than I would ever put it, but that's okay. This is movie mode, so it's still weird. Dark World and Love and Thunder are still are still together.
back to back.
What about the Incredible
close?
Hulk?
Where's that at right now?
31. That's the only weird thing is that the Thor movies are weird because you think Love and Thunder is better. I convinced you Dark World should be higher, but it's like, would you ever say that Incredible Hulk is better than Love and Thunder when we've kind of already decided Incredible Hulk sucks unanimously and you like Love and
suck.
Thunder?
Yeah.
We might leave this list with those two being beside each other.
It feels weird. I mean, yeah.
But the Captain Marvel movies are like that too.
You're right. Would you?
At the same time, though,
you-
it's like, how much time are we going to spend on the bottom 6?
Do you hate Love and Thunder more than? Would you rather?
I personally would put Incredible Hulk above Love and Thunder.
That's fine. I'm fine with that.
All right. Just for the sake of splitting up the Thor movies. But I
Yeah.
mean, I would do that personally if it was my list.
I'm fine with that.
It was just a matter of if you were going to let me. So both Marvel movies are together, but we kind of already decided. We compromised at Quantum Mania being dead last. The Marvels is not better than Love and Thunder, correct? Or no?
I don't think it is. I don't think it is.
Fair enough. Yeah, a Chris Hemsworth movie is, again, kind of like my Iron Man 2 point. I would rather watch Chris Hemsworth doing anything than seeing the Marvels. Dude, that might be our list. So I'm going through. Should I read through from 1st to 34th, and then you stop me if you think we made a mistake?
Yeah, do it.
All right. The top 7. Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Civil War, Iron Man, Endgame, Ragnarok, Avengers. Are we good?
I like that, yeah.
All right. 8 through 14. Guardians 3, that's the weirdest one for me. Guardians 3, No Way Home, Deadpool and Wolverine, Guardians 1, Homecoming, First Avenger, Black Panther.
Yeah, this feels good so far.
If this was my personal list, I think Deadpool and Wolverine's too high.
You think it's too high? Where would you?
I would put it above First Avenger, behind Homecoming. So I would move it down 2 spots.
What's
I think
above
it's
Homecoming again?
Guardians. I think
I'm cool with putting it behind Guardians,
but above Homecoming.
Yeah.
But that's weird because I think I like Homecoming more than Guardians, to be honest. But
okay.
I just think Deadpool and Wolverine's too high. I think that's difficult. Let's move it down a peg if you let me. So you'll let me move it to below Guardians but above Homecoming?
Yeah, and then let's go through the rest of the list. I'll see how I feel. I might let you move
All right,
it down
well,
more.
I'll say it again so we can hear how it sounds. Number 8 through 14, Guardians Volume 3, No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy, Deadpool and Wolverine, Spider-Man Homecoming, The First Avenger, Black Panther.
Okay.
15 through 21, Ant-Man, Strange, Wakanda, Far From Home, Shang-Chi, Age of Ultron, Thor.
I like that.
I do too. 22 through 28, Multiverse of Madness, Black Widow, Iron Man 3, Guardians 2, Iron Man 2, Eternals, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
29 through 34, Dark World, Incredible Hulk, Love and Thunder, The Marvels, Captain Marvel, Quantumania.
I think that sounds good.
We did it.
Guys, those 2 Marvels, I will say those 2 Marvels being next to each other aesthetically, but we had to do it.
Well, I honestly think the biggest issue is that you think so little of Captain Marvel. I think that's the problem. I think I would honestly put Captain Marvel above Dark World.
Yeah.
I could see Captain Marvel being above Ant-Man and the Wasp, but below Eternals. That's kind of where I would be with that. Like,
do you want to? I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. I know you said a Chris Hemsworth movie. do you want to move Love and Thunder below Captain Marvel?
I mean, personally, that is my choice. I think Captain Marvel's better than Love and Thunder.
All right, do it. I know they're still together, the two Marvels.
They're not. No, they're not. If I put Captain Marvel above Love and Thunder, then Love and Thunder's between both films.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
All right. So the bottom
that'll
6 one more time.
The listeners more, I think. Yeah.
The bottom 6: Dark World, Hulk, Captain Marvel, Love and Thunder, Marvels, Quantumania.
I'm cool with it. I know I threw my argument out the window that I made earlier, but I'm cool. I think yeah.
It's the bottom 6. Yeah. Like it's all interchangeable. I think it starts to just get interchangeable like 15 to 21 when we're doing Ant-Man all the way to Thor. Like, those are still quality movies, even though they're never in anybody's top 10. You know, like, it's like, I'll watch any of those right now.
Yeah, me too.
So I think that's good. All right, so here's what I'm gonna say. We don't need to make a letterbox for movie mode. So this list is gonna be on my Letterboxd, everybody.
Yeah, baby.
So letterboxd.com/rewatchryan, and I'm gonna make this public at the time that you're hearing this, so you can visually see this list as well. It doesn't need to be on Austin's. He has enough followers. Let's get my Letterboxd up. So I'll make this public so you all can see it right now on my Letterboxd. So come hang out with me there. And I'll call it MCU ranking, post Deadpool and Wolverine, by movie mode. And that's that. Was that a fun way to do that?
That was the best way to do that. You talking through these things with someone else, I think, gave me new perspective, and I didn't fully change my opinion on movies, but I like hearing things through another lens that kind of gives me an idea as to how I would do it going forward. So that was great. I love that, man. That's one of my favorite episodes.
Well, I'm glad. I think it's fun for the audience as well. I think they'll enjoy it. The weirdest thing about this list is Volume 3 at number 8. But you know what that means? That means I need to rewatch it.
Yeah. See?
Of all the movies I need to rewatch right now, it's gonna be Guardians 3. Like I said, I guess I've only revisited that film through the first act. I've watched it on Disney Plus a little bit, and then I got to the Nathan Fillion planet, and I'm just like, whatever. So to be fair, I haven't revisited all of the rocket scenes, everything with what's the villain's name again?
He was in Peacemaker.
What's his name? Well, not the actor, but I meant the villain.
Oh,
I can't remember.
I can't remember his name either.
Well, it's all right. I forgot. Somebody's screaming at the top of their lungs at us, but that's all right. So I need to see how all that works again. But anyway, Adam Warlock, I kind of don't remember.
Yeah.
He kind of turns into like a baby. I don't know how I feel about that. But I'll revisit it, and then we'll come back and discuss it. All right, cool. That's our list, everybody. Letterboxd.com/rewatchryan. It'll be there for you. Anything else before we get out of here? It actually did take longer than I thought it would. I'm kind of surprised how long that took. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, these letterbox or these tiered lists that I do, I'm always like, I can get this knocked out in 30 minutes, and then I'm there for an hour and 30, and then I have to edit. It's atrocious, man.
Yeah,
it's very tough.
We can make this 2 episodes. I guess
we could.
I mean, we talked about Am I Racist for an hour.
That's true. We could make this 2 episodes. You want to do that?
We can. Well, the audience right now is listening, and they're like, "Guys, you already did it," because they're hearing this after the fact. Anyway, we have our tickets for Joker Foley Ado. So we've got our tickets. So we have that coming up. That's exciting here in a couple of weeks. Is there anything else? Oh, I think the next podcast we do is Agatha v. the Penguin.
Yes.
I mean, how could it not? I mean, so if we can do that this weekend, I think that'd be fun. We got all kinds of episodes that we're able to do here. What a time to be alive.
Oh, so good.
All right, we'll talk about all that kind of stuff off air. But guys, you can expect Penguin, Agatha talk, then probably Joker Foley Ado after that, and then it'll be Gladiator 2 time before you know it. It'll be Oscar season ramping up before we know it.
Yeah,
and then we'll have 2024 in the bag. Guys, I love you. Austin, you have any other words to sign off with?
No, I'm happy. Got a new vehicle, so we're feeling good.
All right. Stay tuned for my book TikTok account, and we'll see you next time.